With JJK on a 2-week break, there's nothing really new to cover this week, so instead we're going to do another theory video. This time it's not going to be cope like the Gojo theory video. Rather, we're going to talk about something interesting from the last chapter that everyone's been talking about, Yuji's new power, which we've been waiting a while for. And like I told you guys, invest in Yuji stocks now because he's going to move mountains. The GOAT's about to do something special. But what exactly is he going to do, because we really have no clue of what his ability is. Although, we at least have a few hints, so we can kind of theorize from that. So I've gathered a few theories here, and I'm going to explain the reasoning behind them as well, and see what Yuji's power might be. Now, of course, these are all theories, this could all turn out to be wrong, and maybe it's something completely different, and the GOAT is going to surprise us with something special. It is Yuji after all, and he always impresses us. My entire portfolio is allocated to Yuji stocks right now, and I know I'm going to get some nice returns on it. But jokes aside though, let's actually talk about what his power might be. One of the most obvious things that it could be is probably just cleave and dismantle. It's a pretty simple theory, but it also kind of works. Especially because that last panel from the last chapter. You can see that Yuji has claws now like Sukuna. Plus, he could have also just eaten the last finger, which could have given him this power, or the fact that Sukuna was part of him before, because Gojo did mention that he could make Sukuna's power his own. His body would eventually learn it, and this could be basically the payoff to that. Now, on a related note, a second theory is that he could be able to manifest Sukuna's power beyond just cleave and dismantle, whether by having made it his own, or by eating the other finger, or a combination of those two. Basically, the same thing that we said for cleave and dismantle, but it goes beyond just that. He could basically use every power Sukuna has. He was the vessel after all and did experience using these powers, so who knows, maybe he did pick up on it himself. But besides that, it's basically all the same reasons as the first theory. Now, a third theory that's pretty much as likely, he could use the power of the death paintings. Maybe this is completely unrelated from Sukuna's abilities. It was briefly mentioned that the death paintings would live on inside of him, so just like Sukuna, if he ate them, then maybe this is him manifesting those abilities. Just like those two theories, this is also equally as likely in my eyes. Again, it's something that was foreshadowed, it was something that was mentioned, and thematically it would work too. And most importantly, just like the first two theories, this wouldn't come out of nowhere either. This is a perfectly reasonable ability for him to have, but it also kind of plays into the fourth theory here, which this is the one I kind of believe in. And I feel like this theory is the most likely because it kind of encompasses the first three, but is still unique on its own, and it kind of relates back to Kenjaku in a way. This theory is that Yuji has the ability to use his power as a vessel. It's not just limited to Sukuna, it's not just limited to death paintings, it's basically anything that he can get his hands on. Think of it like Yuji being a Pokemon trainer, or like Geto in a sense. He eats curses, but instead he makes the power his own, and he can basically summon the power as he wants it. Also kind of similar to Yuta's ability in a way, but instead of simply copying the curse techniques, he could basically manifest them as is. And this one actually makes a lot of sense when you put everything together, because first of all, if he has the death paintings within him, this makes that work. This also plays back into how he was able to use Sukuna's abilities too. And of course, this plays into the body swapping theory that we've seen before, because in a way this is somewhat similar to that, and it still plays into his other abilities and his relation to Kenjaku too. So instead of Yuji having to place his brain in other bodies or something like that, he just has to eat something and can summon his power that way. And hopefully if it's similar to Kenjaku, we're not going to see Yuji do what Kenjaku did to actually make Yuji. Maybe that's the endgame. Hopefully not. But back to what I was saying about the body swapping. A fifth theory is that it's simply body swapping. Now think of this like theory 4 where I was saying that he can manifest different powers. So this relates to this page first of all, showing that Yuji could swap souls. But it's not just limited to that where he could swap with people externally, it also explains how Sukuna worked within him, and would work with the death paintings too. Although it's worth noting that Sukuna working like that wasn't just exclusive to Yuji, because we see that with Megumi too, where he's able to swap with him. But with Yuji, this connects not only to that, but it also does relate to his relation to Kenjaku, who again has a similar ability, although this is not going to be exactly the same as that. Now, in case you haven't noticed so far, a lot of these theories do have similar powers. It's really just the way he obtains the power and actually uses it, because the different conditions for it do make a difference. So yes, the end result could be a little bit different, but the actual method for obtaining the power, that's what we're theorizing here, because that's basically going to dictate how Yuji uses his powers and what he can do with it. Which also brings me to theory 6, which is actually pretty interesting. It could relate to soul manipulation. Now, there are a few things supporting this. For one, he does show some parallels to Mahito too, in a thematic sense. Plus, he was very quickly able to learn how to actually perceive the soul and such. If we go back to chapter 27 in his fight with Mahito, during their first battle, he actually was able to hit Mahito's soul and not just his physical body. Due to him being a vessel for Sukuna, he actually learned how to naturally perceive the contours of a soul, as said in that chapter. So maybe this could be some type of foreshadowing for an ability related to soul manipulation, and it still does kind of relate to the other things too, with him being a vessel and such. Plus, another thing to note is that when we see his arm in that final panel of the last chapter, it does look similar to Mahito's true form too, which is kind of a stretch, I'll admit, but it is still worth mentioning because I have seen people point it out and it could mean something. We never really know, and I'm simply just here to cover the theories. But again, with those theories that I've covered so far, a lot of them do have similar abilities in the end, but the big difference is the conditions to actually use them, and the way Yuji uses them. Because sure, while they could all lead to him using these claws and actually using Sukuna's abilities, or something completely different, For example, there's a big difference between manipulating souls, being a vessel, using the power of the death paintings, or just using Sukuna's abilities. Now, all of these in the end could lead to him using these claws or whatever they're supposed to be, but obviously the activation is different. Completely different for each one, which is really important to keep in mind. And that's if those theories are correct. Of course, a lot of people are thinking that he's just going to use straight hands, and maybe he will just be a left-right merchant like usual. Which, hey, I support Yuji, he's my goat, he's going to move mountains, all my stocks are in him, but I don't think it's simply just going to be that, especially with the fact that he already has the claws. Clearly he has something more than just being able to punch really hard. And honestly, thematically, I feel like any of those theories would work better than that. One last theory I will mention that is a little bit outlandish, it's the black box. So, in case you don't really remember what the black box is, it's a technique from Sukuna. It's not actually called black box, it's because the black box was censoring what he was saying there. Here, he's opening something and we still don't really know what it is. So whatever this unexplained ability is, maybe it's related to whatever Yuji has now, although it is kind of hard to pinpoint because we still don't really know what was happening here, just that he opened something. Personally, I don't feel like this is going to relate to Yuji in any way, and we'll probably see more of it from Sukuna himself later on rather than Yuji. But it is worth mentioning because I've seen people bring it up, and I kind of want to explain my thoughts on it here at least. Obviously, we still don't know the true nature of the black box either. It could just be simply copying techniques, since Sukuna was replicating Jogo, or it could be something completely different. Personally, I think it's related to one of the 6 theories that I mentioned before, and those seem to hold the most water, but whatever that censored ability is that everyone calls black box, it's probably going to return, just not with Yuji. Either way, we're likely going to get our answer next chapter, since things are continuing to heat up. We even just got Kashimo's curse technique revealed, although rest in power Kashimo. But my goat Yuji's not going to go out like that. He's not going to be the waffled one. Same for Hikari, who's still on the battlefield, and Yuta might be there? Who knows? Hopefully he shows up next chapter because he's also one of my favorites. Although we're just here to talk about Yuji, so before I go off on a tangent about the other characters, let me know what you think below. Do you think Yuji's ability is going to be related to any of these things? Is it going to be something completely different? Or are we overanalyzing here and it's simply just him growing claws? I don't think it's just that, it's probably going to be something pretty big. Either way, next chapter is going to be pretty interesting because now the goat's back. Also, Higuruma too, he's pretty cool. But discuss below because I'd be interested to see what you guys think. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Be sure to drop a like if you want to see more videos like this because it does really help out the channel. And it'll alert you when I get new videos out. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all on the next one.